We love doing this class, Mike and I. So just to give you a little background on the genesis of this, there was a month that, if you're part of our group, by the way, there could be agents here that are not part of our squad. This is open to everybody. But if you're part of our group, we do a boot camp at the end of every month. And sometimes for one reason or other, like Thanksgiving or whatever, we can't do the full 3 days of boot camp. So Mike and I discussed one day, it's like, man, we got to give the agents something though, right? We got to give them kind of a mini boot camp, something. And then we just discussed, man, if we only had a couple of hours to give you the nuggets that you needed to get a deal in the next 30 days, what would it be? And that was a great exercise because it really whittled down to these 4 fundamentals. Like if I were to talk to a new agent, these are the things that I would tell them to do, or even an agent who's maybe has gotten away from the basics, because that's what happens a lot of times. We start getting so caught up in doing this and that, and somebody told us to do this, somebody told us to do that, and now we're doing 10 things at once and we're doing none of them well. So we're getting right back to basics. This is called building the foundations, 30 days to a deal. And then we're going to go through 4 segments. They're going to be about 25 minutes each. And so I will begin. Mike will take the 2 middle segments, and then we'll close it out with open houses at the end. So without further ado, I'm going to get to the first section, right? And I'm calling it Becoming the Ultimate Connector. Okay. So I just want to let you know that my entire business has been built on connecting with high-level human beings, with great human beings. And I know a lot of people talk about that, like, building, you gotta work the sphere. But what does that mean? How do you even do that? How do you build a sphere, right? Nobody explains this to you. They just say, you got to work the sphere. And a lot of people will say something like, well, I don't know, because I'm an introvert, right? And I want to tell you that I don't actually believe that there's true introverts. I think this is a label you put on yourself, right? And here's the deal. Every great opportunity you've ever gotten in your life has come through a human being. And every time I say that in boot camp, everybody agrees. Like, you didn't find this, you didn't find the next opportunity. The best opportunities in your life came through a human being. So how can you tell me you're not a people person, right? Here's what happens. Sometime when you're young, before you're 7 years old, you had a bad experience with a human being and you decided that all human beings were bad, right? And then you said, well, I'm an introvert. This isn't, talking to people is an energy suck. So I don't want to do this. And guess what, guys? If you want to be in real estate, you can't be an introvert. You can't. And like I said, I don't believe that they actually exist. And I'm going to tell you the value of it and how to do it, right? So that brings me to the fact that you have to make a decision. So what decision are you making? I mentored agents I was the only mentor in the office, in our office, for about 3 years. And I would always tell when somebody hadn't made the decision, right? And the decision is, you got to commit to real estate, right? You got to commit to making this your profession. You got to commit to being an entrepreneur, because that's really what this is, right? You get a lot of agents would come in and they would be like, yeah, I really heard real estate was great. And I have friends that do really well. And, I'm going to try my best. And, but I could just see the hesitation. They hadn't made the decision yet. They hadn't made the decision that they were going to become a true professional in real estate. And no matter what words came out of their mouth, I knew from the energy that they were giving me, they hadn't made the decision. So everybody on here, I need you to understand that real estate is not easy, but if you get past the hard part, you will succeed. But you have to make the decision that you're going to stay, that this is going to be a profession, that you're going to dress the part, you're going to look the part, you're going to research the part. Like, this is entrepreneurship. It's not a career. You didn't get a job in real estate. You are building this from the ground up. So I just want to make sure, because none of what Mike and I are going to say today will help your business if you haven't made the decision, right? Because you're just going to take the information and you're not going to implement it, and you're going to figure out ways why real estate doesn't work. But real estate does work because it's happening all around you, right? You see the success that's out there. So I'm going to give you the actual formula, the ultimate connector formula. Okay. So once again, a lot of people say, well, Bobby, you're good with people. Mike, you're great with people, but I don't got that skill set. And that's because nobody's really broken down how to actually do this. So here's the ultimate connection formula, right? So number 1 is you start with connection. Okay. So that's the initial connection. That's actually, you're going to have to actually go meet some new people, right? But a lot of people think that that's enough, right? Okay, I'm just gonna connect with somebody. So maybe you got their information, maybe you didn't, but you connected. But that's not enough. That's not the ultimate connector formula. The second part of that formula is when you meet somebody, your goal should be to add value to their life in somehow, some way. Okay. So the reason Mike and I and people that you think are great with people have great relationships. I was even talking to Gil about this the other day. Gil's like, man, I don't got friends like you. I don't have the relationships you do. Well, that's because when I meet somebody, I'm looking to add value to their life in somehow, some way. And I'm gonna show you those value add ways in a minute. But that's the sentiment. So people feel that from me. People feel that I'm not only genuinely interested, but I actually want to add value to their life. And the combination of these two things makes an actual relationship. Okay, this is a relationship. This is something where that person wants to see you again, wants to connect with you again, and you want to do the same, right? Because they're just great people. I think Jeet is on here. We had dinner last night. Jeet's one of those folks, man. Jeet's one of those guys that just exudes positive energy, and I just enjoy the dinner so much. And it's a guy that I was like, dude, if there's any way I can help Jeet, I'm going to help him because he built a relationship with me, right? So the art of conversation. So this is another thing that I feel like the so-called introverts don't understand. Like how do you have conversations, Bobby? How do you end up walking into a place and somehow become somebody's friend and within minutes, right? Or how do you get into a conversation? And a lot of people who are consider themselves to be introverts or don't have the skill set might not know what to do. So number one is you got to genuinely love people. And this is why I say you got to kind of eliminate these past experiences you've had with humans. And you have to have a genuine love for people because they feel it, right? If you have a face on, like you're not you ever walk into a room and then there's some people that have this big smiling face and they seem accessible. And then there's some people who got like the resting bitch or the resting asshole face, right? And you're just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to avoid that side of the room, or I'm going to avoid where they're at. And guess what? If you're that person and you don't genuinely have a love for it and you're not accessible, people won't want to naturally walk up to you. And that's what usually happens a lot of times is people will come to me. They're like, hey, this guy has a smile on his face. He's accessible, right? Number two is you got to have a genuine interest, right? So here's the thing, like most people focus on what they're going to say, but they don't have a genuine interest in the person. And so I genuinely want to hear people's stories. Like that is the art. That's the part of conversation. So what does that mean? That means we ask questions. We don't just talk. There's people that get into, you've met these folks. They're just talking all the time. Like they're having a monologue, not a dialogue with you. Right. And so you leave the conversation. You're like, I think I said 3 words, and that's fine with me. Like, as long as they got good content, but like, if you're going to build a relationship, you got to be genuinely interested. Another skill set you need to have is called deep listening. Okay. So I run a team called Davos Team, right? We feed them leads, they make phone calls, right? And when I teach them the structure of the call, right, you have your script, the intro script, that's what keeps them involved. And then at the end of that script, there's a question where, were you looking to make a move in the next 3 months or are you just browsing? And they're going to tell you they're just browsing. And you say, oh, that's fantastic. That's exactly what the site is for. Out of curiosity, what made you start browsing? And this is the opening to the deep listening section of that phone call, because now all you need to be doing is listening to what they say to find the next question that you're going to ask. This is why deep listening is important, because if you come in here thinking I have something to say and you're worried about what to say, you're not actually listening to what they're saying. So what I want you to give yourself the freedom to not worry about what you're going to say next and just listen to what they're saying, because within what they're saying, there's the question, your next question. So let's say you were on that lead call and they said, I was just browsing, and it was, oh, that's fantastic. That's exactly what the site is for. What prompted you start browsing? It's, me and my wife just been talking about getting more space. Oh, really? Well, what's making you think about more space? There's my next question. Like it was right there. They gave it to me. Right. And if I keep, we the kids are growing and blah, blah, blah. Oh, cool. How old are your kids? There's my next question. They just gave it to me. But I was listening, not thinking like, what am I going to tell this person that's going to be of value? In other words, listen to what they're saying. Okay. And then obviously the questions come, right? This is about the questions you ask. The more questions you ask, the better friends you're going to make. And the more you're going to know, and the more you're going to see opportunity because you're gathering information. And the more you get to know who that person is, like I tell the agents on the team, you know, when you're listening to all this, you're kind of figuring out what personality you're really dealing with in this conversation, right? So be that person that asks great questions, right? People always remember the person that asks a great question. And then what I will say is I say store stories, like meaning like when you have conversations with somebody and somebody tells you a story, or you're doing a deal and there's a story, they have stories to tell because people learn through stories. That's how people are entertained and listen to the things you say. So when somebody has a story, you have a story that relates, or if you're trying to prove a point, you can relate a story. So you have to store stories, right? And remember the things that people say. So let's go over the formula. The formula was connection, value add equals relationship. So connection, step one. So what is the value of a connection? So normally in the live class, I would ask you, like, what's the value of connection? If you can, like in the chat, like actually put like, what do you think the value is of a connection? Like the people who are in the class right now, what is, somebody give me one thing. What is the value of a connection?
In the chat.
Say access to like exclusive information sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, this came up last night when I had dinner with Jeep. Building a relationship. Yes, Tangela. You can't go into connection and building relationships with an agenda because you don't know what you're going to hear, right? You just have to show up, right? So when you go into these things, often what I tell agents is like, they're like, oh, should I go meet this person? Yes. If they're a high level person, don't judge it on what you think. Oh, are they going to buy or going to sell? Are they going to invest? You might hear something in this conversation that was so much better than what you came in for. But you'll never know if you don't have the conversation. Okay. And then here's another value that a lot of people don't realize. I always say, I'm not just going after the spider, I'm going after the web. Guys, you got to understand that the value of my relationship with Michael Collier is not just Michael Collier, right? Michael Collier is a high level person. He's an intelligent guy a Christian guy who breathes positivity, successful businessman. You don't think he knows other people like that? So funny enough, me and him after this are all both going to meet people from Alive Church, which is a church that Mike introduced me to. I would not know the guy that I'm meeting today if it wasn't for me knowing Michael Collier. And this is the web, right? This is the fact that when you connect with high level people, you got to stop thinking about it linearly. You got to start thinking about it geometrically. You got to understand that it expands like a web, right? This person, think about one of your deals you close and trace it back. Trace it back. You're going to be like, okay, well, I did the deal with Mike. Okay. But how did I connect with Mike? Oh, well, actually that person connected me to Mike, and then how did I know that person? Oh, I knew that person because of this person. And you'll realize you're in the web. You're in the web and you've always done it, but you never seen the value of it because you're always thinking about like, well, what's this going to lead to? In real estate, it's about relationships. So don't judge the meeting before the meeting. If it's a high level person, go grab coffee, go grab lunch. Okay. And here's another misconception I want you guys to get. So for you guys that aren't like, obviously everybody here has a different DISC personality profile. And anybody who knows me already knows I'm a high I. So you say, well, Bobby, this is probably easier for you. And maybe it is. But here's one of the drawbacks that I hear from people who aren't as social. Their drawback is, well, Bobby, I was like, so you tell me I got to go to this event and I got to meet everybody. And like, what do you want me to do? You want me to be this person that's handing out cards to every person that goes? No, actually, I don't want you to be that person at all. Right. I want you to be a person who's present, who's accessible, and you don't need to meet everybody. When I go to an event, a seminar where people gather, like I only need to meet the people that I need to meet. And almost every time I meet 1 to 2 people that are key to what I'm looking to do or what I'm looking to do in the future, or just a great connection. So this is my mentor, Dave Steck, or one of my mentors, right? And Dave runs a very high level mastermind group. And I love one of his sayings that he always says, and this is literally not my motto for my investment company. It's fewer better deals with fewer better people through fewer deeper relationships. So here's what happened to Dave one day. One day, and Dave, by the way, has been an executive with Kodak, Disney, and then realized that he wanted to be essentially invest his own money, and now is worth, close to $100 million, right? But something happened to Dave one day. He lost, back in the day when they had like Blackberries and shit. He lost his Blackberry, and or shut down. And back then there was no backup. Like, at least now with these iPhones, like they got, or whatever, the Android, like you're gonna have your stuff in the cloud. There was no cloud, so he literally lost every contact, and he was just distraught for a while. But then he realized, of all the people on his contact list, there was only a handful of people that he really connected with or wanted to connect with. And essentially he came up with this concept of the power six. Like, there was only really 6 people he needed to have in his phone, because these powerful people can move all the pieces that he needed, right? Having these contacts. So you don't need to know everybody, right? You just need to do you need to meet the fewer better. So don't think you have to go to these events and actually meet everyone, right? So don't get stressed about this. Okay. The next step is value add. Remember, the connection formula is connect, value add equals relationship. So how do you add value, right? So some of you guys be like, well, how do I add value? Like, maybe this person is, I don't know, a multimillionaire and I'm not, and I'm trying to get to where they're at, whatever the case may be. Let me give you some value add techniques. This is the Coach Franchise top 4. So number 1 is this, asking them their story. This is in boot camp, I'll say this is always my magic. Whether I'm meeting an agent, a client, a friend, I always start with this because I'm genuinely interested. And this is how we build a relationship. Ask them their story. Hey, man, out of curiosity, man, tell me about yourself. Tell me your story. And, it's interesting how people start. Like, sometimes they'll start like, well, I moved to, Orlando 2 years ago and now I'm here. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we'll take it back a little bit more, man. Where you from? Like, or I'll joke around with a client and, they say, well, where do you want me to start? I'm like, you were born, go. Like I want to know from the beginning. I want to know where you're from. I want to know who your parents were. I want to know how you grew up. I was talking to Jeet last night, getting his story. Jeet's like, dude, I'm that guy. I'm that guy that at age 19 was standing in New York with $1 in my pocket and a backpack. I had just come from India, right? And then I went a little bit deeper. I wanted to know, like, where's your family at? Like, did your mom stay? Did your parents stay and you came alone? Like, tell me the story. So the more I got to know his story, I was like, man, like, I think I know this guy so much better now. Like, to know that somebody has fought through having $1 in their pocket, you could just tell he's lost this whole like fear thing about whether things go up or down in his life, because he's already been down and he's gotten up and he has the confidence of getting up. Man, that's a great part of a story. I like to know that about people, but I can't know that unless I ask them the story. Okay. Another value add you can make to a relationship is making an introduction, right? So what do I mean by that? Like, actively wanting to add value to somebody. So asking people like, dude, what's a good intro for you? What are you looking to do right now? What are your goals right now? And the minute they start telling me what their goals are and the things they're trying to do, on my mind, I'm trying to connect them to a value add source, right? So if it's if they're, let's say, my cousin Amy in Tampa, right? So if they say, oh man, I'm about to move to Tampa, I'm thinking about getting into real estate. I was like, I know exactly the person to connect you to. I want you to talk to my cousin Amy Torres. She's in Tampa. She's a crusher. Like, Bob, I'm just looking to make an introduction and add value to that person's life. That's a way you can add value. Number 3 is a strategy. So this is essentially an idea or a strategy about something. Sometimes people will tell you, well, I'm trying to do this, but I don't know exactly how to do this. And by the way, if you are with our group and you're into agent attraction and you're building essentially your organization or your brokerage, what you're really looking to do is help people through a strategy, because most real estate agents are looking to solve a problem, right? So if I meet an agent, I'm going to ask them their story, and then I'm going to ask them, what are you looking to accomplish? What's going well? What's not going so well? How could I help you get there? Okay, in that conversation, I might get the opportunity to hear, okay, well, what they're looking is for coaching and development. Okay, so you're missing the coaching and development. Well, how about this? I've got a class coming up on the 17th. I was like, I'd love to invite you to that class and get you started there. And we're going to be talking about a few strategies to kind of help you with exactly what you need help with, which is getting a deal in the next 30 days. Would that be a value to you? Absolutely. Right. You can be my guest, right? I'm giving them a strategy. That's a value add, right? I'm not taking anything from them, right? And then number 4 is very simple, is you got to have that inspiration. Like, people want to be around people who are positive, like my cousin Amy's positive, Mike's positive. Like, I don't leave the room feeling that. People should leave the room elevated in energy when they meet you, right? So you are the person that's lifting people up. Like, you're not the person who complains about stuff and brings negativity, and they're trying to tell you their idea and you're finding out every way that it can't work. Like, that cannot be you. If you want to build great relationships, you want to have that inspiration, and you're like, dude, you can absolutely do that. How can I help you do that? Okay. And then step 3, relationships, right? This is what you're trying to get to, a strong relationship. Okay. And relationships take effort, right? And this is the hard part, right? It's the cultivation of a relationship. Like, if you're in a romantic relationship, you know that it's not going to stay good unless there's effort put in, right? And so when you're building relationships with friends, clients, other agents you're trying to attract to the company, whatever it is, there has to be an element of you making the effort. And you as an ultimate connector have the opportunity to make that effort first. So make the first move. What do I mean by that? Like, you might go into an event and there might be somebody that actually does want to meet you, but they're scared too, right? They're scared to connect with you because they're thinking the same thing. Well, what if it's a weird conversation or whatever the case may be? So make the first move. You be the person, right? You be the person to approach and make it easy on them, right? They will appreciate you for that. Or, make the first move to connect somebody to somebody. Just understand that you making the first move is a great way to build a solid relationship. You made the effort. You were scared, but you did it anyway. And now you're in a conversation with somebody. Number 2 is keep your word. Okay. This is huge, guys. Like, you want to build great relationships. This is it. Right. And listen, nobody on this call is batting 1,000 on keeping their word, but you should be striving for excellence in your word. What do I mean by that? If you say you're going to do it, you got to do it, right? And if you can't do it, say no, because this is what people do. They feel bad, or they don't want to tell people no, or I'm probably not going to be able to make that. You know what I mean? I can't, or, I got a buddy of mine calls me every week, asks me if I can play basketball on Saturday. And a lot of times I'm a yes or no. The other day I was like, you know what? I got a Christmas party on Friday night and I just can't commit to 9 a.m. basketball. I'm like, I just can't. But I was honest with him. Like, don't expect me, because there's a good chance I ain't going to make it. Right. And that keeps my word strong. But if I do say I'm going to do something, then I need to deliver, and you need to deliver. And it doesn't matter if it's a small thing or a big thing, whether it's showing up on time or showing up to the event that you said you were going to show up to, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to tell you right now, people appreciate it, because so many people say they're going to do something and do not do it. And then once again, show up. Like, this has been something that, like, actually moving your body and going somewhere shows people you're making an effort. Somebody's doing their first event and you say, I'll be there. And when you show up, I'm telling you, ever do that? You ever tell somebody, hey, I'll be there? And you can kind of tell that they don't necessarily expect you to actually keep your word, because so many people say, yeah, I'll come to your party, or I'll come to your event, or I'll be there. And then you show up and you could just see the look on their face. Like, they're just like, dude, like, thank you. Like, and I don't even have to say it. You can see it, because you made the effort and you did what you said, and you physically showed up to support what they were doing. Okay. So, ultimate connector schedule. We'll go through this quick, because we're getting to, I know we started 5 minutes, like about 4 minutes. Okay. Go to one event per week. There's no lack of events in real estate, guys, or no lack of events in general. Okay. I don't want you to be pigeonholed into real estate events. I want you to meet people outside. Like I literally pay to be a part of groups so that I can meet people that are not in my circle, that are doing different things. So you can get different perspectives and different opportunities. 10-15 by 10-15. Okay. You know, Gil will tell you, my partner Gil will tell you, nobody's ever failed if they did this. If you call or meet with 10 people, okay, and send out 15 texts or emails by 10-15 a.m. every day, which is called prospecting, but this is about building connections and relationships. 10-15 by 10-15, you cannot fail in the next 30 days. If you decide after this call that you're going to do this every single day for the next 30 days, that means like you're going to wake up early. You're going to start reaching out to folks by text, the email. You're going to pick up the phone. You're going to set up a breakfast meeting. You're going to whatever. You're trying to get to 10 people by phone or person and 15 emails and texts by 10-15 a.m. If you do that every single day, I'm telling you, the web will start to build and deals will start to come. 2 open houses per month. Well, once again, we'll talk about open houses at the end, but this is how I built my business. Why? Because I'm essentially creating my own networking event. I'm meeting people in person, face to face, because I'm hosting an open house and people coming in and meeting me face to face. I believe that everything you do should be leading up to a face-to-face meeting, because I know that if somebody makes the effort to show up, you're already 95% there. And then visit 2 builders per month. Start getting to know the salespeople at the builders. Show up to the builders. Shoot some content. Put the content out on social media. Tell people that you're going out there and invite people online. Say, hey, listen, I've got some time this weekend. I'm going to have to go see this builder out in Davenport. Who wants to come with me to check out some awesome model homes? Get people to start joining you in the things that you're doing. So here's your homework. And you introverts are going to hate this one. Okay. You're going to meet 5 strangers this week. You know what I mean? You're gonna go out and, you know, you're gonna be standing in line at the grocery store and you're just gonna start conversation. You're gonna give them a compliment, you know, hey, I love your blouse, you know, or it'll be like, oh man, I buy those too, man. Those are really good. What do you like about those? You know, whatever. I don't care. You're gonna start a conversation, and there's going to be 5 new people. Don't tell me you kind of know them and now you're going to, because everybody tries to cheat this one. I want 5 strangers that you do not know this week. Here's your other homework is make your power list. I want you to start organizing the people that you already know and the people you will be adding to the list. How do you do that? Number 1 is you're going to go through all your emails, like export all your contacts in your email. And I want you to sift through them and find the people that actually know you or that you want to know, right? Know, like, and trust. Some people might be more acquaintances, some people more friends, but they belong on the list. Okay, here's what a list looks like. Go through your Facebook. You're going to go through the whole thing. Yes, it's going to take you a week, maybe take you 2 weeks, but you're going to get this power list together. I'm like, man, and you're going to realize, I'm like, I actually know a good amount of people here. This is a great place to start. You're going to go through your iPhone. Who are the people that I actually that like and trust me? I'm going to put them on here, and you're going to put all this information, including notes, right? Like, what you talked about, and reach out to all of them. Hey, I was thinking about you. You know, what have you been up to? Boom, start talking. A lot of reasons people fail is nobody knows they're in real estate. How many times has somebody sold a house from under you because your friend didn't even know that you had a license, right? So this is a great way for you to reach out to everybody and not be a secret agent. So growing your power list. How do you grow it? Regular life. Like I said, I've gotten deals. I've gotten deals by wearing a real estate shirt to the gym. I at least close 1 gym deal a year, at least, just by going to the gym and interacting. So regular life, grocery stores, gyms, PTA, I don't know. Okay. Seminars, be intentional about going. We've got, we got a major event coming up in Cabo in March, with Ed Milet and all these that's a big event you can go to. That's a seminar, right? But they don't have to be huge like that. They can be small. I go to these things all the time, right? Organizations, join something, right? Join something you're passionate about. For instance, today I'm going to meet with the guy from church. If I decide to get more involved in the church, that's like joining an organization. So what happens? People get to know me as being a part of pushing something forward, pushing an agenda forward, or doing something positive. And it's a great way. I know Mike has been the best at this. Like he is involved in the church. People know that Mike is the real estate guy. Like, don't worry, Mike, I'm not gonna tell your business. He's the real estate guy at Alive Church. Like, he is, like, he knows. We go to a golf tournament for the church. He's got a sign right there at the hole. Like, he's that guy for that organization, and people know him, but they also know him as a servant leader, not just their agent, right? Social media, obviously, you know, get in that rhythm of posting. And then clients, right? Working as you continue to grow your client list, you should be talking to your clients about who else you can help, right? Is there anybody else? Hey, do you happen to know anybody who's selling a building? I've got some commercial investors looking. Just let me know if you do, and you start growing that power list. So that's part one. That's becoming the ultimate connector. I'm gonna throw it off to Mike. Mike, do you want to take over the slides so you can flip them? I'll stop my share.
Yeah, I'll do that. Let's see.
While you do that. So, by the way, we're trying to try to leave some time. Let's see, somebody, obviously, I probably talked to 10 strangers a day because I just love to talk. That's fantastic. Fantastic office view. That's how you're showing up on here. Yeah, and Amy says, I always see Mike with a branded shirt, right? So Mike is the guy with the branded shirt. You won't miss Mike at EXPCon because he has a shirt that says, I love referrals, right? And people refer to business. So without further ado, I'm gonna let Mike take things over.
All right, timer has begun. All right, so hey, I want to talk to you guys about what you need to do to capture the people that you're speaking with. So Bobby just went over a great presentation of how to begin making more relationships, going deeper in the relationships that you're building, and connecting with people, whether they're people you already know or perfect strangers. And some of you all, like I see the chat, you guys are going wild in the chat, like, oh yeah, I talk to 10 people a day, or I'm always talking to strangers, you know, whatever it is. But then there's a lot of you who, you know, in your heart that you're not talking to enough people. And if we're honest with ourselves, we've actually talked to more people and built more relationships with people than we care to even admit to ourselves. And when you really think about the number of people you've met and the number of relationships you've built over the years, and how many of them you never followed up with, it starts to paint a picture of how much better you could be doing in your business than you currently are, even if you have a great business. Bobby and I can both tell you, there's been people where we're like, dang, you remember that one guy that I met at that one thing a couple years ago? Gosh, man, I wish I would have kept his number. Or I remember I put his number in my phone, but I don't remember his name. Right? Like, so you got to ask yourself, when I am meeting these people, that's great that you're meeting them, but how are you staying in touch with them? How are they staying in touch with you? You plug it in your phone, great. You put it in your database, awesome. Now it's in your phone. But how many of you guys, be honest with you, how many have ever met someone, you put them in your phone, and then the next day, you're like, I met some awesome people, but I don't remember who those people were. It's just in your phone somewhere now. And if you know, you can't build a business that way. And so how do you do that? How do you build a business through people that you're getting to know over time? You do it through a CRM. The use of a CRM, customer relationship management system. That's all it is, a CRM. Regardless of which one you use, that's what it's about. Managing the relationships with your customers or your clients, right? In real estate, we're calling them customers now, right? And so I don't care if it's your sister, your uncle, your aunts, cousins, friends from back home, doesn't matter. All of them should be going into your CRM. Now, at EXP, we have KV Core. It's included in our relationship with KV Core, or with EXP Realty. So this is how we do it. And the truth of the matter is, there's a lot of agents, even at EXP, who are not using their KV Core the way they should. So I want to show you guys how to use this going forward, okay? 5 ways to boost your business using KV Core this year. Now, there's a lot of things that KV Core can help you to do. It can help you to enter and track your leads, do follow-up campaigns. There's a lead dialer that's on there. We'll talk a little bit about that. How to generate leads. You know, you also are able to get a website. So you have an actual website that's powered by KV Core. So people can go to your website, they can search, search deals, search for properties, and then when they put their information in there, it goes into your CRM and you can track that. Tracking the deal flow. Okay, so cool. They signed an agreement. Now where are they? Are they under contract? Is it closed? Are you in appraisal? Wherever that is. Lead segmentation. Bobby just talked about making your power list. Who are the people that I need to be connecting with? Who is somebody that I spoke with over the last 6 months, 12 months that mentioned that they may be thinking about buying a house, selling a house, but I've kind of lost touch with them. I haven't continued that relationship. Maybe that's an A. But the people that are just, that are just kind of been looking or whatever, maybe that's a B, whatever. And then you have marketing and ownership of leads. You can collaborate with agents through KV Core, but then you can also manage a leads team for those of you guys who are aspiring team leaders or you already have a team leader, have a team. So let's go through the top 5. One is tracking your lead activity on a daily basis. Now, here's the thing about this. KV Core makes this extremely easy for you to do. Why? Because it actually shows you in real time who's on your website and what they're looking at. Look at this. This is a snapshot. This was just a screenshot of some time ago when I built this presentation, that it shows you who's actually looking. So look, you can actually see the name of who's looking. You can see that they viewed the listing. You can see how many times they viewed the listing. You can see how long ago they viewed the listing. You can see which property they looked at. And then I can either email them some information, I could call them directly from this link, or I can even text them and say, hey, would you like some more information regarding, 7512 Meadowglen? Right? Saw that you were looking on the site. Would you like some more information about it? What am I trying to do? I'm just trying to get in conversation with them. I can see something that they already showed interest in. It's like what's the first site? Put it in the chat. What's the first site that most people go to when they begin looking at homes? Where does everybody go? Most consumers go when they begin looking for homes to buy. Right.
Zillow.
All right. It's Zillow. It's Zillow. Most people are going to go to Zillow. But do you click on every single house in Zillow? No. They're not clicking on every house. They're clicking on the ones that they show some interest in. Maybe it was the color, maybe it was the layout, maybe it was the area. Something about it caught their attention. So if I see that they looked at this on my website, I might reach out to them and say, hey, do you want some more information about it? What was it about this property that you actually liked? Right? Now, what's really cool is you can see that this guy actually looked at this property 3 times. So if they looked at a property 2, 3, I'd probably say 3 or more times, because sometimes they might, open it and then they accidentally clicked out of it, they open it again, so that's 2 times. But if somebody's looked at it 3 times or more, what should I be doing? Should probably be reaching out to them. Look at this. This lady looked at this property 5 times. This one 4 times. Now, I want to point you to this one over here. Mia Irungu. Right? So Mia Irungu, she reached out. She came onto my website. I didn't know her from anybody. But then she reached out to me on Instagram and say, hey, I've been following you. I actually saw you on YouTube. I began following your Instagram. And from your Instagram, basically from my Instagram, she clicked on my, the LinkedIn profile kind of thing, started searching on homes for homes there. And she's like, I just, we're going to be relocating, I think from Virginia or something like that. We're going to be relocating. And I really want to, I think I want to use you as my realtor, And I'm like, all right, great. I'd love to help. And so we started a conversation. She had already begun looking at my website. I could see that she was looking at the website. I could see which property she was looking at. Guys, this lead, which I'm going to call a YouTube lead, but technically reached out to me through Instagram and ended up on my website, ended up being a $1.15 million purchaser. She bought a house for $1.15 million. And keep in mind, when we first got on and began talking, She told me that they really didn't want to be above like 8 or 900. Was that worth my time? Do you think it's worth time popping into your KV Core? Uh, here's my current day's KV Core. Just to see, because all of you have access to this, right? So you can see, I can see who's looking. Guess who else is looking at homes? My wife. She's ready to buy a house. I know. What can I do? Right? She's dropping hints. But this like Russ Mundy guy, he's all over it. So I can see exactly what he's looking at, how often he's looking. And then if you see, I can even see that he's looking at these on his computer versus on his phone. This one he looked at 5 times. Okay. So I just wanted to show you guys how powerful that can be. Okay. Now, what's important is that not only that they're looking at homes and I can see what they're looking at, but now I also need to be able to follow up with them. So what I did is set up behavioral alerts and automations. These behavioral alerts and automations are simple to set up. They're right there in your KV Core. And guess what, guys? If you have KV Core and you're like, I really need to use it more, but I really don't know how to use it, man, who can I call? Who can I talk to? KV Core has a whole portal, a learning portal that would teach you. It's literally like a KV Core school, and it teaches you from step 1 all the way to step 100 on what to do and how to set this stuff up. So it's very, very simple. And a lot of it's already set up for you. You just have to turn them on. So I didn't build any of these campaigns. I don't know if you can see it, but these are, some of them are for agent attraction, but you'll see like default active buyer. If this is an active buyer or this is an active seller, all I had to do was turn these on. It will tell me who it's designed for, how it starts, how they're going to like what I'm going to what it's going to do. Is it going to assign tasks to me, or is it going to shoot out emails, or is it going to change the status, create a call for me to do, email and text them? Like that. I like that. And it tells me how many times it's going to do that, right? And then, it'll say, well, is it always running? I have it set up to where if I email them or I text them from my system, and let me stop saying if my CRM sends them an email, text them, and they respond to it, it will automatically shut off. Nothing worse than it constantly running after they've been like, yeah, send me some more information. And then you're like, hey, would you like some more information about it? It's like, okay, dude, what is this? Are you a bot? Because most of these people that are coming into my website, I don't know who they are. So I don't want them to think this is just some automation. Okay. So it allows you to be more human more often with automation. This is important. Okay. All right. Step 3, you got to learn how to market EXP listings to social media. So I'm going to go back over. Well, I'll show you this one, just an example. Actually, I'll show you real live on my screen. All right. So you guys see, this is my screen. Okay. I can hover over the house that's here on the left-hand side. I can go to the company's listings. As you guys probably know, we have a little feather in our cap here at EXP because we have the largest number of transactions on the buy side and sell side of any independent brokerage in the world. Okay, so when we click on company listings, like there's a lot of them. Okay, as a matter of fact, you can see there's 3,589 right now, as of right now. But I can click on any of these, right? Just so you're aware, you can promote any listing that's in here without permission from the actual agent because it's a company listing. Now, if you go and promote other brokerages listings, then you do need to reach out to that agent and say, hey, can I, would you mind if I market it? Okay. But because who owns the listing? EXP technically owns the listing. We're representatives of EXP. So this is an EXP listing. It's a broker listing. And so I could go in here. All right. It's going to pull up everything. Can you guys see this? Everybody see this? Okay. I can go in here, right? And you guys see over here where it says boost property? I can boost this listing. And it will show right here on Facebook. It will literally create the listing for me. tells you how long it's going to be active for. It shows you what the ad would actually look like. Here's an ad preview, right? And then the next step, put some payment in. $65 will get you 7 days of placement on Facebook marketing, right? Now you're running Facebook ads. Some of you guys are like, well, I don't know how to run Facebook ads. And who do I hire to do Facebook ads? You don't. You do it right here from your CRM. And they will decide what the radius is. So typically it's like, I think it's like 15 or 20 minutes or 20 miles outside of where this actual listing is. So it's already smart enough to know where to market this. If you don't know, it's something like 85% of the people who buy a home after owning a home move within 5 miles of the home they already live in. So that radius actually captures the majority of who would most likely buy this home, right? And then you can completely configure that. Now, something else I want to show you. Look at this. I can send it to whoever I want to via text. I can add it to save. I can email it to hashtags. So if I'm putting people into my CRM, Bobby mentioned that he's meeting with investors. People, Bobby has investor season. So he's talking to agents who want to be investors, who want to buy their own properties rather than just helping other people buy properties. He's talking to investors who have already been investing, right? And so he's putting them in, but he should be hashtagging them as investor. Maybe he can also hashtag duplex or hashtag Windermere, wherever they want to buy. Why? Because now I can go in here, find a property, and literally email it to the hashtag that is specifically for that type of property. Now, if you know anything about Reunion, the city of Reunion, a lot of short-term rental there, right? A lot of investors go in there, they buy these higher-end rentals, and then they do short-term rental over there, right? It's only about 25 minutes outside, 30 minutes outside of Disney. So I might say short-term rental, hashtag Disney, right? And send this over. So you can do all of this stuff. I can post it directly to my Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and Craigslist. Very, very important. Why is it so important? Well, one of the things I want you guys to understand is that it's not the best realtor who wins the game. It's the best marketer who wins the game. Ask yourself, who is the best attorney in Orlando? What's the best attorney firm in Orlando? You guys know? Most of you guys will probably say Morgan & Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan & Morgan or Dan Newland. But are they the best?
No.
Maybe they're not. But why do we think they're the best?
Because they have the best advertising.
They have the best advertising. They're everywhere. They're on the radio, they're on TV, they're on billboards. They're spending the money on marketing to get the mind share. And in your mind, you automatically think to call them when you need help. So naturally, they create their own destiny. Number 4, you can customize your website. So if you were to go to my website, I'll show you what it looks like. If you go to my website, you can actually customize it. So when customers come to my website, when they come to my store, I don't have my store like Ross, right? Or like, shout out to Ross. I love Ross, but some people hate shopping at Ross. Why? Anybody hate shopping at Ross? Why do you hate shopping at Ross?
It's organized.
It's all over the place, right? Like it just depending. I could close my eyes and just kind of reach in there and just see what I get. Oh, I got some pants, and then I could do it again on the same rack, and now I got a sweater. It's like, all right, that ain't the way that I want to shop, right? If I'm coming in for sweaters, I want to go into the sweater aisle. So guess what? My customers are able to do that. When they come to my website, if they're looking for houses in Orlando, they can absolutely do that. They want Claremont, Daytona, Kissimmee, Ocala. I have it all set up in nice file folders for them to be able to click on, and it will automatically set that up. How do you do that? It's very easy. Go to the KV Core tutorial. Now, I personally paid somebody to do it. I also have my little chat bot going over here. So, hey, you have any questions? Call or text us today. Here's my number. There's my business card. You come to my website, you're going to get my business card. You're going to know how to contact me. And then lastly, you can also get a personalized smart number directly through KV Core. So what number am I telling people to text me from? Or like what's powerful about this? You guys have ever seen those captures, those smart campaigns where they say text house to this phone number, right?
Yes.
Those are called smart text codes. Now, just to have smart text codes, they normally cost $17 a month. Okay. If you're like, hey, I have a phone number, but I just want to add smart text codes, then you can do that for $17 a month. But for $27 a month, you can actually get a personalized phone number through KV Core. So now when I'm calling people from my KV Core, as I'm seeing these leads pop up, looking at all these properties, I can call them from my number, and that number is my number. When I'm texting them, it's coming to that number, right? How many of you guys think that would be powerful? You know why that's powerful? Because you might have if you're as your business grows, you will see the benefit of having different numbers for different marketing channels. You're going to have a different number for the billboards that you put up. Why? Because when people call that phone number, and it pops up, it's going to pop up. You're going to save it as billboard. Guess what you know? You know how they found you. I have yard sign in my phone. I have a different number for my yard signs. So when you look at my yard sign that says for sale in a listings yard, that's not my direct phone number. That's my yard sign phone number. That way, when it rings, my whole team sees yard sign lead with dollar signs on it. I know that my signs are working. Right? You might have one saved as BizCard or whatever. But again, different marketing channels will give you different results. And if you get different results, now you know where to spend more time, money, and energy into it. You may have a different phone number. You may have a different phone number for your YouTube channel. Some of you guys already have a YouTube channel, or you're planning to start a YouTube channel. Why not have a different phone number? Why does it have to be your direct number? It doesn't have to be your direct number, your personal number, or your business number. It could be your YouTube number. And now every time you get a call, guess what? You know it's coming from YouTube. So now you know whether to continue or not. Good?
Great.
Great. So speaking of YouTube, let's switch over to social media strategies. The social media strategies that you must do to win in 2024. Now, here's the thing. I know that many of you all have used social media before. Many of you we're all at just different levels in using it, right? We're at different levels. Yeah, and 2025. Yeah, these strategies are a great point, Bobby. These strategies not only work in 2024, but these will work beyond, right? But especially in 2025. Because what I know right now is that many of you are retooling what you're working on. Most of you are like, man, I need a fresh start. I'm looking to, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start my social media. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to you are planning out what your strategy is going to look like. And you may have done that in 2024 too, as we were leaving 2023, heading into 2024. But if you're honest with yourself, the wheels fell off that bus a long time ago, somewhere along the way, right? You post on social media, but you're posting your breakfast. You're posting about that one party that you went to that one time back in EXPCon in Miami, and that's probably the last thing you posted, right? Like, that's not going to get you the business that you're looking to get. And so this is why we're not just talking about social media. We are going to be talking about social media strategies, putting a plan in place to win now and beyond. So here's 5 things that you must do on social media, and I'll dive deeper into these, but I want to highlight these for you. So if you're taking notes, you want to jot these down. 5 things that you must do on social media. The first thing is you got to show up. Every day, you have to show up. Number 2, you got to be the news. You got to be the news. 3, share what you didn't know. Number 4, show and tell and be the student. And then 5, collaboration is key. So let's talk about it. what's it mean to show up every day? I always tell my group, the agents who have partnered with me, and I run a mastermind call twice per week. It's open to every agent, any agent across brokerages. And this is just a place where agents are able to collaborate. We talk about our wins, we talk about our lessons, we talk about our opportunities. And it's a lot of fun. But one of the things that I always tell them is that 85% of this game is showing up. Bobby said it in his part. Like, if you make a commitment to say that you're going to be there, be there. Your word is your bond. And so the problem with most real estate agents is that because we are our own boss, air quotes, because we are our own boss, we just feel like we can kind of show up whenever we want to, wherever we want to, whenever we need to, whenever we kind of feel like, or even worse, whenever we remember to. How many times has there been that thing, that show, that class that we've done in the office, or something like this? You know how many people have signed up for this class that you're on right now? We had a ton of people sign up for it. Not very many people showed up. Why? Because they didn't even remember. Why? Because they never even put it in their calendar. They just said, "Oh yeah, that's something I want to do." And so, how often is that happening? How often do you think that that happens to a real estate agent who is saying that they want to show up for themselves, that they want to have, they want to be a successful agent? How often is that happening? It's probably happening pretty often. Why? Because they're not using their calendar. And so when you show up, I always say there's two things you got to do. You got to show up and you got to show out. Showing up is more than half the battle, 85% of it. But the rest of it is what you do with it. What are you doing when you're there? You got the listing appointment. Great. Now what? Or better yet, let's back up. You've decided that you're going to start making calls. You're going to start calling expires or for sell by owners. Question: did you show up for work today? Or did you say, hey, that thing starts at Bobby and Mike's thing is starting at 10 o'clock. So I got time to eat breakfast and go for my walk and, do that thing that I love doing, scroll on social media for a little while, because my day doesn't really start until 10. Did you negotiate with yourself? Or did you show up for work today? What about yesterday? What about the day before that? So we have to show up for ourselves, for our work every day. And then when we decide to show up, we got to do the work. Okay. All right. Here's the thing. Part 2, you got to be the news. You got to be the news. What is true? You guys can take yourself off of mute because I want to hear you on this. What are some of the things? Well, let me ask this. Were there a few challenges that we had in real estate this year? Were there more than a few hiccups along the way in the real estate industry that we're just like, not this again? What were some of those news stories that disrupted real estate this year, guys?
The new broker signings
New broker signings?
before you show a listing.
Yeah. So the NAR lawsuit, right? NAR
The NAR
lawsuit.
lawsuit, yeah.
Yeah. So we had to revise the way that we're working with customers now. Got to sign before they can enter. What else? What about interest rates? Interest rates climbed, and then they started coming down, and agents started making a whole bunch of content about interest rates coming down. What was it? Buy the house, date the rate. Right? Now, we don't know if interest rates are going to go down even in next year. So, newsflash. What about prices? Home prices through the roof. Crazy. This is what the news is saying. Inventory. Oh my gosh, inventory. A lot of new agents don't even understand what they're talking about. What's talking about all this inventory? Right? We don't have houses in a warehouse. Like, what are we talking about? Inventory. No inventory, too little inventory. And so,
Great time for cash buyers right now too, investors. It's a great time for them.
Yeah. Well, so there you go.
They have more leverage. Yeah.
They have more leverage. They have more. So now, so Richard's talking about exactly what I'm talking about. Guys, that's the news story. That's the news that the news networks gets paid to release. The news networks get paid to come up with stories, and I'm not saying make up stories, but I'm saying promote stories that are going to keep you glued to the screen. That's their job. Why? Why does that matter? Why do they need to create news that's going to keep you glued to the screen? How do they benefit? Because they benefit because all of the advertisers who are advertising on those channels, as long as you're glued to the screen, guess what? You're going to get hit with 5 commercials between every segment. You're going to buy something. So these advertisers are paying a lot of money. And so here's my question to you. Are you allowing the news to inform your customers more than you're informing them? Are you taking the news story of the day, whatever the news story is, the new thing, the NAR lawsuit, the interest rates, the prices, the inventory, and are you helping your clients understand what this means for them? And are you doing it consistently? If you follow me on social, go ahead and follow the Mike Collier, THE Mike Collier. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I post something every day. I have something posted every day. And sometimes it's directly related to real estate, but many times it's not. Because I'm doing 2 things. I'm building community and relationship through my social media, but then I'm also finding ways to make sure that they know I am an educated, informed agent. And so I'm a well-rounded guy. I'm a likable guy on social media and in real life, but on social media for the people who don't know me. So are you a likable person on social media? Are you using social media to be the news? If the answer is no, then we got work to do. So how do I do that? Well, you can say things like, if I knew then what I know now. Share what you didn't know. If I would have known that interest rates were going to be as high as they are now, probably would have bought a long time ago. How many of you guys would agree? And this is maybe what you're saying on social, right? Would you agree that if you knew then, last year, that interest rates would be higher than they have been in the last however many years, do the research, would you agree that you probably would have at least started looking at a home or put a down payment on that home? If you would have known that inventory would be so tight that prices would start rising like they have, would you have bought a house 2 years ago? Now, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know what the next 2 years looks like, but I can tell you this. It's probably wise for us to start having a conversation about what it looks like to buy a home now versus waiting to see what the future looks like, because the future may not be in your favor. Here's a true story. Agents here on the call, how many of you all know somebody who is elated that they bought a house in 2019 and 2020 and not 2021, 2022? There is a huge difference in the people that bought in 2020, the year of the pandemic. There's a huge difference between them and the people who bought in 2021, because the people who bought in 2021, only a year later, in that exact same neighborhood, they're buying that same house for $75,000, $85,000, if not $100,000 more, depending on the neighborhood. Exact same house, exact same neighborhood. You guys know what happened to real estate back then. So if you share these stories, Bobby talked about storing stories. If you share these stories of successes and failures, right? Lessons that were learned by other clients, and you use it as a cautionary tale, and then you invite them into having a conversation with you. We don't have a crystal ball, but I invite us to have the conversation. I invite you to have the conversation. Okay? Because there's going to be some people who go like, oh yeah, like I didn't already know that, right? Like my man Iron Man over here, right? Yeah, like I didn't already know that. Interest rates are high. I already know that. Yeah, but do you know how it affects you or somebody that you know? Okay. Always be learning. Always be a student. That's one thing about I can say about a lot of you that are on this call. This is why you're on the call. You guys show up. And if you haven't been showing up in the past for yourself, you've decided now that you're going to start showing up, right? You're deciding now. I know Richard and I have had some conversations. You're deciding now to do things differently than you've done before because you putting off the inevitable is only making things work uh, worse. You putting your head in the sand about, yeah, I know I need to start using my CRM. Yeah, I know I actually need to start going out and talking to people. I know I need to start going to networking events. That doesn't necessarily help you. So how does social media tie into this? Guys, talk about something that you learned. Talk about what you didn't. You know what? I was on social media, I was watching this morning and I found out that blah blah blah. Did you know that there's whatever, right? Insert blank, right? Maybe you can make it local. Maybe if you're the type of agent that's going to be sending out these market reports, these monthly market reports, um, and maybe they're monthly market reports, but maybe they're actually weekly market reports, depending on who's actually hot. If I got somebody who's telling me that they want to buy something within the next 0 to 3 months, I'm not sending them something every month. They're receiving a weekly market report every week to show what homes are selling and which ones are going on the market, which ones came back on the market, and which ones have sold, how much did they sell for, are prices trending up or trending down in this area every week, right? And so my social media to them specifically may say, hey, did you know that there are 13 homes in that neighborhood that are currently under contract? Last week or last month, there were only 9. What does that tell you? A lot of the inventory that's on the market is starting to get gobbled up. What does that tell you? Competition is increasing. What does that tell you? Prices are driving up. What does that tell you? We should probably be making a decision to buy sooner than later. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Social media doesn't have to be hard, guys. And lastly, if you want to really build this for yourself, collaboration is key. If you're like, man, I don't really even know where to start with social media. I know how to. I'm a consumer of social media, but I got to be honest, I'm not putting out enough content. You probably just need to collaborate with somebody who's already doing it. Sit down, learn what you don't know. Maybe you are doing a lot of social media. What happened with me was that I was doing a ton of social media already, but I was shooting videos and coming up with captions and editing my videos and putting the music to it and putting the captions on it and trying to keep up. And I got me personally, I got better things to do. But that doesn't mean that I need to stop doing it. It just means that I need to hire somebody else. I need to collaborate with somebody else that can do it. So what did I do? I began hiring virtual assistants. I have 3 virtual assistants who allow me to basically be omnipresent. What does that mean? That means it allows me to be everywhere at the same time. So you'll see me posting on LinkedIn. You'll see me posting on Facebook. You'll see me posting on Instagram. You'll see me posting on TikTok. You'll see me posting on YouTube. I am not typically the one that's posting that stuff. Me personally, it's my stuff. I'm creating it, right? I'm creating the vision behind it, but I'm leveraging people. Why? Because me sitting behind my phone for 2 hours trying to get a daggone reel out. How many of you guys have content in your phone that you have never even released? Videos, photos, you had really good intention. You actually go to events and you're like got your phone out and you're like videoing the food and real slow pans across the room, and you got all these awesome files in your phone. Nobody's ever seen them. Great, good job. Look back on those when Google reminds you, oh, remember this from 3 years ago? You're like, oh, I never posted that. I show when I'm out at events and collaborating with people and networking with people. Why? Because people need to see that I actually enjoy doing that. I enjoy meeting people so they know my personality just by watching my reels. It goes back to what Bobby was talking about earlier. These connections. How do people know you enjoy connecting with people? Show them that you enjoy connecting with people. Right? If you want more information on how to get virtual assistants and all that kind of stuff, you can let me know. You can reach out to me personally. But for me, that is everything. And so I told you about the lead that I had that became $1 million closing. Right, I showed it to you when I showed you the screenshot. $1.15 million. Okay, I told you that she originally found me on YouTube. She went to find me then on Instagram, followed me on Instagram, started watching the stuff that I was posting, watching my stories, and then she went into the link that was in my bio and ultimately ended up on my website, and then ended up reaching out saying, hey, looking for a house. Okay. What I didn't tell you though is that the YouTube channel that she found me on wasn't even my channel. I collaborated with someone else who already had a YouTube channel who was not a real estate agent. I collaborated with an influencer who I'm that influencer's agent. And that influencer wanted to show his audience what he's up to. He's looking for a house. And he's like, hey man, let's go looking. He's like, do you mind? He asked me, you mind if I record any of this? I'm like, dude, of course, record it.
Please
Okay.
do.
He's like, all right, cool. And then he goes on to ask me, hey, by all means, man, like if I'm gonna get you on here, but pub yourself, like let them know how to contact you and all that kind of stuff. And of course, I didn't want to hijack his channel, right? So I'm being like, the agent on HGTV, where you don't really kind of hear, like seen but not heard. That was the kind of the play that I was working on. I'm like, I'm just gonna be in the background and they see clips of me every once in a while. But what he does is like a daily vlog. And so you see his life, like he's the one holding his own camera. He doesn't have a camera crew and all. And so he's the one holding his own camera. And so we were walking through homes and he's like, Mike, what do you think about this? And I'm like, well, this, he's like, so tell me about this neighborhood. And I'm telling him about the neighborhood and, what's unique about this house and boom, boom, boom. Right. And so I'm coming across as this expert on his channel. Now he has a pretty big daggone following. Okay. This is what he does full time. And, and so then he turns the camera on me. He's like, all right, so, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, like, how can they reach out to you? I was like, a moment. Right?
407,
Right. I was like, I became like the guy on the commercials, right? If you need a house, feel free to reach out to me. Right. And he's a Disney fan as well. So he goes, Mike used to work at Disney. He worked there for 12 years and, me and him really hit it off. And so he's a Disney fan like me. And, a lot of you all, right. So he really kind of pumped me up and it was really cool. So anyway, from that, and we did this a few times. So I don't know which episode she watched, but on one of those episodes, they began seeing how I was working with him. Again, the power of social media. They saw in action how I was working with him. They liked how informed I was. They liked that I was fun, right? Because I made sure that we were laughing and all the fun. She reached out. $1.15 million later, got a deal, right? She invited me. She was pregnant at the time. Now they've since had the baby. And me and the family, me and my wife and my kids we got invited to the baby's first year birthday. Right. So this is what we're talking about when we say, man, like social media, you have to look at social media as more than just a tool than it is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for me. You'll always see me whether you check on my stories and you see me taking pictures with my kids, this morning, we have some of you guys know about the Christmas elf, right? So we have Jingles, the Christmas elf, but these kids name their elves, and the elf hides and pops up in these places, right? And this morning, um, we found our elf gambling in the corner in the corner of our house. Probably not the best message for the kids, but the elf is like sitting around with like their friend with his friends, and like there's like stuff on the table, but there's like little like dollars, doll size dollars that are out on the table, and they're all like gambling for the stuff that's on the table. And so my daughter's like, Daddy, we found Jingles. I'm like, oh yeah, what is she doing this now? She's like, she's gambling. She's what? So I go downstairs. I'm like shocked. What? She's doing what? Who taught her how to gamble? She's like, I don't know. So what did I do? I take a picture of it. I posted it on my stories. I'm like, found Jingles gambling this morning. Got to do something about this elf, right? And I've got Christmas in Hollis, Queens as the music being played in the background, right? If you guys know, right, that Run DMC Christmas song, right? And so it's just fun. Why? Because I want people who are following me to see that, man, Mike's fun. Like, he's a real guy. He's a good dad. He's always with his kids. He's always with his family. He knows his stuff. He's always talking about real estate. He's always helping people. I can see when he's listing properties. I can see when he's getting stuff under contract. I can see when he's doing showings. So it's a lifestyle. But because of the lifestyle, me showing up, this is me showing up every day. I'm showing them that I'm showing up every day. It gets me more business. So one begets the other. And so I will tell you, if you've been struggling with being consistent on with your social media, if you're like, man, I just don't know where to go and where to start, I will tell you that everything is content. Everything is content. And that's what you need to be focused on right now. Okay. And so if you have any questions, make sure you guys are writing them down. We're going to get to your questions at the end. I'm going to turn it over to Bobby. We're going to talk a little bit about open houses, but I will end with this. One of the things that I did is after 2019 is when I started selling real estate, and it was good until it wasn't. And cutting through a long story, I ultimately ended up doing open houses. But how did people know that I was doing open houses? Open houses saved my business, and Bobby will tell you a little bit about how it helped for him. Open houses saved my business. But what did I do with open houses? Y'all, I began going live on social media, not just when I was at the open house. I was showing people when I was dropping signs out in the neighborhood. 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm out here dropping signs for my upcoming open house. If you got an agent and they're not dropping signs early, you need to talk to me, right? Or you need to talk to them, or agents, right? And I started talking, and before you knew it, I began getting enough open houses, and then I was able to say that I'm an open house marketer, right? I specialize in open house marketing, is what I would tell agents, and I began getting more open house opportunities on their listings because they saw what I was doing on social media, and they're like, yeah, this dude might bring us a buyer. Lo and behold, within a very short time, 4 or 5 months later, I'd made 40 grand off of the open houses that I was doing. And I knew that that was going to be my way out, but I also knew social media was a large part of that. And so Bobby's going to take it away. He's going to talk about how open houses can help your business tremendously if you focus on it and do it right.
Absolutely. So if you guys notice kind of what's happening today, so we've given you 4 fundamentals, and essentially 2 of them are digital and 2 of them are ground game, right? So my thing is, you got to combine the digital with the ground game, and open houses are a ground game that I don't think will ever go out of stock, right? Like, honestly, like people say, oh, open houses are old school, but like, honestly, if you can get consistent at open houses and get great at open houses and understand things like, hey, the house matters, the neighborhood matters, and like making sure that people show up to your open houses, you're going to have consistent business and people you can follow up with. So I'm gonna ask you guys, what's the value of an open house? you guys, you can put it in the chat, whatever, if you want to speak up. But what is the value of an open house? Give me one. Gain leads. Thank you, Tangela. So yes, of course, gain leads, but the multiple types of leads. We're going to go through all the different making connections, meeting potential buyers and sellers. Yes. Richard said the leads are yours and free. Exactly. Right. So we talked about connecting at first, and I mentioned it then. Guys, this is a way to connect directly with a human being. Like this is your face-to-face right there at the open house. So I love open houses. I think that they still work. And matter of fact, that's how I restarted my business in real estate, right? So I had gotten out of real estate after the market crash of 07, 08. Okay. And I went and did a bunch of stuff, marketing, branding, entertainment. And eventually I came back to real estate because I wanted to get back to my original goal, which is, and this is your original goal as well. You want to live life on your own terms. And the only way I know how to do that is to become financially free. And I needed to be in an industry that allowed me to do this. Okay. And I realized, okay, real estate is the way. So one of my very first deals. So before I even joined the brokerage where I met Gil, so before we used to be Exit Realty, and then we changed to EXP. So this is 10, 11 years ago, right? And before I even joined the brokerage, there was a guy that I knew. I was friends with his daughter. And he said, hey, I'm actually building a brand new construction house in downtown Orlando. If you can find me some buyers, find me some buyers. And I'm like, man, this sounds like an opportunity. And I just wanted to show this guy that I'd be like working, like I'd put some work in before anything. So like, I was like out there making flyers for this property and all this kind of stuff. And I was marketing to people. I was saying this house is coming, it's being built right now. And I was doing all this marketing, right? And this is actually where the kind of the stage that the property was at. So that was the final product, beautiful home. And then this was where I kind of caught it at when he was out there. So I wasn't even thinking when I got back into real estate, even though I knew a little bit about real estate, I was like many of you guys feeling not super confident about my realtor abilities, because although I had my license since 2006, I started my career as a loan officer. So I was more of a financier versus a realtor. I had done maybe a deal or so a year over the years, but it wasn't, maybe 5 or 6 deals prior to this, but I just never felt like a professional realtor. And I had certainly not done an open house before. So one thing I hadn't done when I did join the brokerage, right, there was this guy here. I don't know, some of you guys might recognize him. This is an earlier version of Mr. Gil Ramos. I caught this from one of the old notepads he used to have, right? And I met this guy named Gil Ramos, and Gil Ramos, I said, he's like, what are you working on? I said, well, right now I'm working on a few things, but I've got this guy who's building a brand new construction house right down the street here in downtown. And I'm just marketing it for him, trying to find him a buyer. And he's like, let me ask you a question. Have you asked him for the listing? And I was like, no, actually, I haven't. I haven't even asked him for the listing. And he's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I'm not feeling super confident. Like, I know this guy. I just want to help him out, whatever. He's like, you need to go get that freaking listing. So one of the first things I learned from Gil was you got to ask for the business, right? Like I wasn't asking for the business. And a lot of you guys right now have a bunch of people hanging around in your database, but you haven't actually asked how you can help them, or how you can work with them, and who you can help that they know, whatever. So I was like, man, the next thing so basically what ended up happening is Gil said, where's this house at? I said, it's down the street. He said, I said, the owner's usually there because they're in the process of building it. He's like, we're getting in the car, we're going. I'm like, really? We're going right now? He's like, we're going right now. Okay. So we drove out there to ask for the business. So basically we met the guy. We did everything I taught you to do in connection. We, met the story. I introduced them all. He walked us around the house. And, Gil was doing his Gil thing, right? Gil had a lot more experience in that game, and he was building a relationship with the guy, and the guy was super impressed, right? And so I was like, oh shit, we have a chance to getting this listing. But the guy said, I'm currently talking to this other downtown realtor who got a big name, and she says she can sell this for me, no problem, blah, blah, blah. So we were competing. Okay. So what ended up happening is he decided to go with that agent. And, you know, I was a little down about that. I was like, oh man, we could have had it, you know, whatever the case may be. And Gil was like, oh, don't worry. We're going to keep following up, you know, and because I had a relationship with this guy, like there's nothing wrong with me asking him and just saying, hey, how are things going? How are things going? So Gil's like, you're going to call him every 2 weeks and ask him how things are going. Right. So, you know, we're sitting there and, you know, he's got another listing agreement with this other agent, but we're just asking how things are going. Right. And now about 2 months pass and this house isn't selling. And Gil says, do me a favor, look up the listing. Let's see what this thing looks like. We look up the listing, and number one is they listed the property before it was done, which I think is a mistake, right? Like, you know, people can't really see what it's going to look like, all this stuff. And there was 3 pictures up, and one of them was like a floor plan, one of them was a rendering, and one of them was like a picture of the house half built. It was bad. We looked at the description. It was bad. Like, and the property is now sitting there for 60 days. So Gil said, do me a favor, print out the listing. I give the listing to Gil. Gil marks it up with a black Sharpie, like all these circles, everything, crosses stuff out. Like looks like you got an F on the exam. Like that's what the listing looked like, right? And then Gil says, do me a favor, let's look this agent up on like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com. Like what? Let me see their profile. And when we looked up the profile, one of these came up. You ever do that? You ever look at it? You know, we never even accept like social media requests when they have this picture up. But when we looked up the agent, this is what was up, right? This was this is the big time agent, right? This is the agent that is like the big time person downtown. And so Gil taught me to be a little bit creative about this. So Gil said, do me a favor. All right, I got the listing. I got it all marked up. Do me a favor and print out an 8.5 by 11 picture of this kind of empty, you know, no picture like deal, like this shadow person, right? And we stapled it together, and Gil said, we're going back out to the property. So we go out to the property, and, you know, there he is, you know, the owner's there, and he's like, oh man, how you guys doing? And he's like, man, we're like, hey, man, we're doing that, man. We're just checking in on you, seeing how things are going. Out of curiosity, how are things going? He's like, you know, not so hot, you know, like we really haven't had the activity, and there's been a lot of promises made, not a lot of promises kept, you know, and all this stuff, this and that. And Gil goes, man, he goes, actually, you know, Gil goes, I actually met your agent the other day. And he's like, really? You met her? He's like, yeah. She's right here. And he put up this picture right here of this shadow box. He's like, yeah, I met her. She's right here. And literally his whole, like, he just dropped his head. Like he knew, like he had made a mistake, right? Like we were here trying to really sell his, you know, hustle his property. And he was sitting there 66 days in and hadn't sold it. So the value of an open house, we talked about it. So this is what I told him. So long story short, we got the listing, right? Eventually he canceled the listing, came over to us, and I made a promise to this guy. And I said, listen, I'm going to hustle the heck out of this property and get it sold for you. You're down 60 days. And I'm going to do an open house for you every single weekend until it sells. Now, when I said that, I didn't know 2 things. Number one, I didn't know how to do an open house. And number 2 is I didn't know it was going to take 9 weeks. Okay, because the house was a little bit overpriced, right? So, but it literally trained me on open houses. And now I'm speaking to you today because I see the value because of these things. Number one is conversations. I tell agents at boot camp, the more conversations you have, the more money you're going to make. This is why you can't be an introvert. This is why you have to connect. So an open house, I get to have conversations not only with buyers, sellers. I get conversations with people around the neighborhood because I want everybody to show up. I want the neighbors to show up. I want people to show up. I want you to tell me about the neighborhood. Tell me things I don't know about. Tell me if you know that somebody's moving in or looking to move in the neighborhood that you might be able to refer me. But in other words, I'm building this database through the open house. Number 2 is connections. We talked about connecting. So I'm making connections. Maybe somebody comes by the house and they're actually a handyman. Well, I got a new handyman connection that's working in the neighborhood already, and I made a connection, or whatever the case may be. Maybe it was somebody who just curious and was walking like I do all the time. Like I see an open house and just go in, but it ended up being somebody that I needed to meet, maybe a financial advisor, somebody who could be a great connection in the future. Training and practice, right? So like the value of an open house is like you get the practice of actually doing. So like there's value in it besides like what leads you're going to get. If you haven't done an open house, you need to do one so that you know how to do it. You're not scared about it anymore. And then you get your rhythm down on how to do them. And then obviously there's buyers and sellers, right? You've got the people who are actively looking to buy, which by the way, the people that walk into this house, once again, anybody who shows up to me is on a higher level of a lead than somebody you just got a ding online for, or you haven't met yet. Anybody who took the time to show up to that house is way more serious to me than any other person. So buyers and sellers. So you're gonna invite people from the neighborhood to come to your open house. Those will be some of the sellers, and you're gonna obviously get buyers in through your signs, your balloons, your digital marketing, and then information. Right? You're gonna get information about the property. You're gonna get information about the neighborhood. As people ask you about stuff in the house, you're gonna learn stuff about the house. You know, I'm sure you guys who have done open houses, it's always that weird thing where somebody finds something in the house and you don't know what it is. And then you and you're like, actually, I don't know what it is either. And then you got to call the seller or whatever. But guess what? After you do open houses on that same house for 2-3 weeks, there ain't nothing about the house you don't know. You know what I'm saying? If they want to know where the panel is, hey, second closet on the right, just open it up. It's right there on your left. What's that little thing on the counter? Actually, just push that down and a couple plugs pop up, right? Cool. What's the age of the AC? AC is, 4 years old. They just replaced the roof last year. So it's, less than a year old. You get the information and now you're practiced. And then net time. Here's another value problem. So a lot of you guys are like, oh man, but open houses take so long. Well, listen, if you're an agent, your schedule is basically 24/7, right? I work on Saturdays and Sundays. So listen, you're going to be at the open house for 4 hours. Maybe 2 of those hours there's people in there. So you get those other 2 hours, you can be cleaning up that CRM, following up with everybody who came into your KV core that Mike taught you. Hey, maybe you're editing some video for your reels and your posts for next week. Come in there with a plan to not waste the time. Call this net time because you were already doing something else, right? You're not losing any time by doing it, okay? So open house money formula. What is the open house money formula? I'm going to tell you in one formula how to sell houses for the most money, right? And also to get an open house that's actually with people in it. I just had somebody tell me, like one of the agents on my team, I had a one-on-one. He says to me, yeah, I did open house for my friend and, there's just nobody came this weekend. And I'm like, okay. He's like, but the house is like way tucked in the back of this and stuff like that. And I just did it for her because she's my friend. I was like, so you didn't intentionally pick the house. You just did it because it was easy and you took the open house. Well, you took a house that's like way tucked back that nobody can find and you're wondering why nobody showed up to your open house, or you're doing an open house in a gated neighborhood and you realize, man, this is really a tough place to do open houses. Almost nobody showed up. Well, you got to be intentional about the house, right? So I will say the number one part of the formula is to have a sexy house. This means a couple of things, right? It could be the price point. It could be the location. And it could be the look of the house. As a listing agent, when you go in to talk to a seller, one of the things that you're going to talk to them is about how to present this house, right? So you want a house that looks good, smells good. So you don't want to do an open house where the grass has grown up 1.5 feet. You tell the seller, I need the grass cut because I'm going to be doing open houses every week. So this is not the time to skimp on cutting the grass. Like, we need to keep the place cleaned up. We need to keep the place like this. So you got to have a sexy house. Could also mean location. It could also mean price, right? Or location and the look of the house, right? Attractive price. So once again, as a listing agent, or even somebody taking over a house, like, houses sit on the market. Usually, number one reason is they were priced improperly for the market at the time. So when you get your own listings and you're doing your own open houses, which is what your ultimate goal should be, make sure you do things right. You present the property right. You get the right price for the property so that you get the attention that it deserves, because attention is what sells a house, guys. That's what sells a house. When I list the property, my goal is to have a contract in 10 days or less, because that means I price the property for attention. If I get crickets for 10 days and nobody shows up, I made a mistake on pricing or presentation. Okay. You're going to need an aggressive agent. You're going to be the kind of agent that follows up. Okay. And that's going to give you the max profit. So if you present the house properly, you get a house for your open house in a great location, you make sure the house presents well, you have the right price, and you're an aggressive agent that follows up with people, you're going to get the max profit from not only your open houses, but from your listing. Okay. So what's the pre-game strategy you need to know for your open houses? So number one is you have to have signs. You know, I know many agents like, I'm doing open house this week. It's my first open house. Do you have any signs? No. Okay. So plan this in advance. Know that if you're going to start using this as a strategy, you have to have signs. 30 is what I recommend. You're going to lose a couple of them probably every time you do one. So you got to understand that. Make sure you list the open house on the MLS. A new agent might forget to do this. Make sure that if it's not your listing, that you tell that listing agent, hey, make sure that open house is listed in the MLS, because that's what goes out to Zillow, Trulia, and 200 other websites, so people digitally can see open houses happening. Make sure you do the social media post. Mike said, listen, what a great occasion to get social media, to go out multiple times during the week and do a video in front of the house, do the video about the neighborhood. You know, use these things, because what I love about something like this, it shows you're in business. It's not just a post about what was in the news or whatever. When you're in front of a house, when you're saying, I'm going to be here this weekend, make sure you come visit me from 12 to 4. It's telling the world on social media, I actually do real estate business. This is what I do, is real estate. It's not just a regular post. So what a great post, and market your open house leading up to those 7 days. Okay. Door knock the neighbors and invite. So this is where you're going to get the sellers of the neighborhood, right? So one thing you can do is the night before, or the evening before, the afternoon before, go around the neighborhood, make sure you go to all the house. I mean, if it's a small neighborhood, do the whole thing. If it's just 10 houses to the left and right of the neighborhood and across the street, make sure you invite people and let them know, hey, listen, we're going to be here tomorrow from 12 to 4, but I'm doing something special for the people that live in the neighborhood from 11 to 12. If you want to come in and get a kind of a private viewing, and I'll tell you what the when this house sells, what's going to mean for the value of your home, or show you why we're doing what we're doing so that you can understand, and invite folks and come with a little flyer in case that they're not there. You leave it at the door, but you want to get those sellers involved. They might bring you that buyer, or they might be looking to sell as well. And then I will say balloons still work. So whenever I did open house, I put balloons on the signs, and a lot of people don't do that anymore, but I think it's actually magical, because what happens is when people drive by the sign and they see a balloon floating, that means that things happening today. A lot of people leave signs out. We see signs every day. Nothing catches our attention. I've had so many people say, I saw the balloon, then I saw the sign, and then I came to the open house. So, and then one little pro tip, now you can actually do these QR codes that you can reuse. Not bad to have a QR code, make a custom open house site with a QR code where you can actually upload the website to the home with the address. So if somebody drives by, they don't have to try to follow signs to get to your house. They just look it up and then, oh, this is at 123 Main Street and I'm coming. And then make sure the house is ready. So either come to the house early or the night before, make sure the house is looking right before, right? If it, like, not a bad idea to bring some Febreze. Maybe you come to the vacant house and you realize there's no toilet paper. Like, have some of these things in your trunk, like toilet paper and Febreze and cleaning materials and things. You never know when you show up to the house. You're like, oh my God, the dog just tracked a bunch of stuff in this house and my open house is about to start and I got to make sure this looks cleaned up. Game day, start 2 hours before. Okay. So at least, you think 2 hours sounds like a lot. No, it's not, because you got to put out signs and you got to get the house ready. And you got to get your, and I recommend also that you bring a change of clothes, right? So, you're going to put out 30 signs, and notice that I put a little map here. You see this little kind of map on the top right. So when I go put out signs, I usually take a map with me where I'm going to put the signs. So like, I'm being very efficient. I know where my signs are and I know where I'm going to put them. And I also know where to take them back down when I leave the open house, but start 2 hours before, to make sure you give yourself enough time so you're not running in the house. Bring a change of clothes, because when you're putting out signs, you're going to sweat and all that stuff. You have your change of clothes, you come in the house, you put your nice clothes on, and you're good to go. Map out your strategy. Like I said, the map that I have there on the top right helps me map, hey, I'm going to put these 30 signs here, and I know where to pick them back up. I want to be efficient in those 2 hours so that I'm not hurrying to start. Because how many times have you started your open, it's almost noon when your open house starts, you know, you're 5 minutes, you got 5 minutes left and people are already starting to show up, right? And you're not ready. And then obviously put your signs and balloons out, and then have your sign-in sheet and other materials ready. Okay, so sign-in sheets. Now, me, I'm old school. Like, there's a million ways you can do this. KV Core actually has an open house sign-in sheet that it'll go directly into your CRM. You can do that. I personally like to bring the old school way because I like to write down their information personally, because a lot of people either will not give you the information that you're asking for, or like if you did have like a write-in sign-in sheet and you let them sign in, you're not going to be able to read what they wrote or whatever the case may be. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how to make sure that they actually give you the information, right? So the sign-in sheet, listen, the sign-in sheet's the most important part, because if you don't get the people's information, then you kind of spent this whole day, you know, like Mike said, you connected with them and you got but you can't do anything with it, right? So I have to get their information. So these are some other materials that I bring. Now, this is old school. I'll go back real quick and just talk about getting the information real quick, because I want to make sure that I harp on this. The whole point is getting the information. So when people walk in the home, first of all, I try to build rapport as soon as possible. That's always the magic. So people are always going to be more likely to give you their information when they like you and you have some rapport. So Mike might walk in and be like, hey, how'd you hear about the open house? Oh, you know, follow the signs and balloons. Awesome. Are you looking to actually purchase, or are you just looking around? Either's fine. Oh yeah, we just, you know, our daughter's coming into town, you know, going to UCF, and we're kind of maybe looking for a place that maybe we can buy for her and she can rent out to her roommates. Dude, that sounds like a fantastic idea. So where are you guys coming from? You know, and I'm talking to them and I'm like, cool, well, there's a couple options we have here. Like, you know, if you guys want to go kind of tour the house on your own and kind of, you know, peek around, no problem. You can do that. Or I can give you the grand tour and kind of show you a few things. What would you like? Oh, we'll just look around. No problem. And then they kind of go walk around. I don't crowd them. You make sure you let them walk first. You kind of stay in proximity in case they have some questions. Maybe you ask some more questions as you walk. So, you know, has your daughter already at UCF, or is she just starting? You know, I'm just building that rapport. And after they get done with the tour, I have my clipboard in hand or whatever, and I'm going to ask them. I'm going to be like, okay, so I got to ask you. This is something I ask everybody who comes in the house. What do you hate? You know, and they probably start giggling. I'm like, yeah, honestly, like, be honest, because like the more feedback that I can give the seller, the better. Well, like, okay, what are things that you like about the house? Like, if you could change anything about the house, what would it be? And you have this conversation, and you're just writing notes on the thing, and be like, all right, great. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys so much for coming in. Like, if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and just grab your information. One, because I like to let the seller know everybody who's coming to the house. It's just a security thing, but also because I do special things for people who actually show up, right? So since you guys have actually shown up and seen the house, I feel like you guys are on a level above somebody who just might randomly see it online. So if there's something special that I'm going to give out, for instance, if I talk to the seller and I have the seller agree to give $5,000 in closing costs, that might not be something I put out on the MLS and out to the public, but I will make sure that you know behind the scenes, because I know you've seen it. So these are the kind of updates that I give people that show up. And that's why I'm going to, you know, so if it's okay, let me get your name, your phone number, your email, something to that nature. But it shouldn't be hard with all those steps for you to get their information. This is before Canva. So this is me this is years ago when I was doing these open houses. So don't judge the flyer, but know that having a flyer that has to do with the financing and the payment is actually a great piece of information to have. So great to partner up with your lender to do an open house, have them do a flyer like this for you, where you can actually show people what it would be if you had 5% down, 10% down, 15% down, and those kind of things. So anything to help them make a decision to say yes, you want to have with you, and it makes you look professional. How about some info on the house, upgrades and things like that, right? So this was a house that I was selling in downtown Orlando. It was a historical house. There was a lot of cool things about it. There was a lot of upgrades that were made, but there was also some stuff about historically, like this house is in Thornton Park and it was built by like John Thornton, like the guy, right? And, you know, there's one of those historical plaques in front of the house. So those are different things that I wanted to make sure that they knew about the house, that somebody who would buy that house would appreciate. Okay. And so we talked a little bit about this. I already went through this, you know, welcoming guests as they come in, ask how they heard about the open house, build early rapport, Don't crowd them as they look, but continue building rapport if possible, and ask them what they hate and what they love. Once again, I'm reiterating this because this is it. If you don't get the information, then we have no ammunition to go to this next part of the game plan, right? And I write down their information once again because sometimes you can't read their stuff and you want to make sure they get it. And then here's another value add. So I'm going to show you the numbers that I did on this one open house that I did for 9 weeks, the one that I showed you at the beginning. A lot of times I was actually setting appointments to go see another house while they were at the house, because over weeks I had started looking at houses all around because I was starting to show people, because people will come to your house and tell you, I love this house, but I really wanted a pool. And I would be like, oh, well, I actually know a few houses in the area that have pools that are similar to this and this and that. Or I might just look it up on the MLS right there. I was literally setting appointments to go show the properties right after my open house. So I would say, hey, listen, I'll be done here in about half an hour. I'll tell you what, why don't you guys go grab lunch? I'm going to go and set up a showing for you to go see a couple of houses that I think have the criteria that you need. They're only a few blocks away. And then we'll go check those out. So me be back here at 4:30 or whatever the case may be. Okay. So this is another advantage. Don't miss out the opportunity. When somebody tells you they don't like, well, what do you like? And then you can start looking on your MLS with your computer right there and be like, interesting. There's actually a couple places. What do you think about this? Oh, that's interesting. Cool. Would you want to go see those today since you're already out? Okay. If not, then set up the appointment from another time. So post game, what's the key to post game? I don't want to complicate it for you. It's this, and this. That list that you got is so freaking important, because that's your money list. These are people who actually are actively looking. Okay. And by the way, it matters what house you get, right? The higher price house that you're in, the nicer the house it is, the higher quality of client you're going to get. So if you're doing open houses on $500,000 houses, you're going to get a $500,000 client. I like those, right? You get a crappy property, you're going to get a low price property, you're going to get a low price buyer. Nothing wrong with a low price buyer besides the checks, right? And besides the difficulty usually is sometimes of them qualifying. So think about that when you're calling other agents, not even in your brokerage. Like, you can do that, call agents in other brokerages and ask them to do open houses, but choose your open house and be intentional so that you're doing it on houses that have a nice price point in nice areas that show well, so that you get the most people in your open house, but also highly qualified folks. Okay. So in this particular open house is a real thing that happened. I was trying to sell this house. It took me, I got this house already after it was kind of a stale listing. I took over the listing. This is that first big house, right? And I'm just showing you this email to let you know that not to let go of a deal or a potential buyer just because they give you a rebuttal, like they tell you they don't like the house or they don't whatever. So after this is probably week 6 of open houses, right? And I'm getting to the point where it's like, man, like, I really need to find my buyer here. My house, that house that I showed you was beautiful, but it has some quirks. Quirks are things you can't change that people have to accept or like, but they're different. This house didn't really have a backyard because they built a 3-car garage with an apartment above it that took kind of the space where you would have potentially a backyard or a side yard or a pool. And I was looking for somebody who didn't care about that, like that didn't want to have a pool, that actually liked the fact that there was an apartment. Maybe it was somebody with a mother that needed to live there or a college kid that needed to live there. I didn't know who it was. So I get this group of guys that walk in from New York, and they come in and say, we don't care about the pool, we like the apartment, but we're used to buying condos. We're from New York and we think we can get a better deal on a condo. And at face value, I said they might be right, because you can usually, when markets are soft, the prices of condos usually go down more, and whatever. So I kind of took it at face value. A couple of days passed and I realized, man, these are the best customers I've had walk in the door. They were cash buyers. They were looking for a property that would bring them income, and they're over here wanting to buy a condo. And so I show you this email because I went in and I did a bunch of research. I found out the condo they were looking at. I did the numbers on how much they would pay in HOAs. I put together this email and I basically said to the guys, listen, I did the research on the condo. I broke it down. You're gonna between taxes and condo fees, you're losing 22 grand. You're losing 22 grand a year on this condo. I said, with my home, with zero HOA fees, and the fact that you're going to be renting that apartment for $1,300 a month, you're going to pay zero in taxes. You're not going to pay HOA fees, and you're not going to lose a dime on this property. And literally the next day I was in a car with those guys helping them shop for a house after they told me that condos were the only investment that they were thinking about. And I sold them another $725,000 home, not mine. Okay. But I sold them a $725,000 home. So here are the real numbers. This is what happened from 9 weeks of open houses. Okay. I sold one for 600 from people I met in the open house. I sold this one. This was actually the one that I was listing. So this house ended up selling for 690. So I sold the one. Okay. I sold this one for 725. Those were those guys that said condos only. I sold this one 700,000. This was to a doctor and his wife who would come to the open house. Then the brothers of the guys that I sold the 725 house wanted to work with me. So they started buying a bunch of condos. They bought one, and it was literally like, Bobby, we want this one. And I did the deal. Okay. Sold them that, sold them that, sold them that, sold them that. $120,000 in gross commissions, $4.03 million in sales from 9 weeks of open houses on one open house. That was a good price point. It was a $700,000 house. Okay. And this is what's possible with doing open houses. It's a powerful thing. Be intentional about your open houses. And I hope this has helped, guys. We're right up on, we've got 3 minutes left. I know that was a lot of information. I hope this was valuable to you. If there's any questions, either you can put them in the chat, or you can open up your mic, whatever the case may be. But once again, these are the 4 fundamentals. And the whole point of this, guys, is don't overcomplicate this. Put together a simple strategy in the next 30 days and stick to it. That's the important part. Take a piece of everything Mike and I said, including open house. Set up your next 2 open houses in the next 2 to 4 open houses in the next 30 days. Set up your schedule for posting. Start taking your tutorials on KV Core. Okay. And connecting, you can do today. You got to remember, you have to have 5 strangers you got to meet this week. Why not let's get 5 today and start building your circle. And if you continue to do these things, I'm telling you, you cannot fail in real estate. You will have a deal in the next 30 days. So yeah, like Mike said, you got to go outside. Got to go outside. If there's no question, let me know. I appreciate you, Richard. Appreciate you, Amy.
I just want to say, you guys we're saying thank you for, thank you for putting value in the time that we've given to you guys. But I got to tell you guys, man, like, thank you for putting valuing yourself and putting you first, because right now there's so many emails and text messages and all this stuff. Everybody's trying to sell something in the end of the year, right? Like, all the marketers are trying to sell you all the new systems. And one of the big things is, don't get caught up in the shiny objects. Get back to the basics. That's why Bobby and I built this presentation. Get back to the basics. Build your foundation. And yes, you may have to buy some stuff along the way. You might have to buy some add-on stuff, but you're only adding on to the foundation that you've already built, not creating this top-heavy business that is going to topple because it didn't have a strong foundation. And so that's what we want for you guys. And stay accountable to yourselves and to each other, and let us know your successes along the way. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, for us, seeing you guys implement is the best compliment you can give us. And share your stories, right? So next time we do a class, you're going to be like, bro, I did this, it worked out. I just talked to an agent the other day and she had a tough situation. And I was like, well, here's what I would do. I would call, I was like, there was supposed to be a closing the next day. And she was freaking out and she wanted to withhold some kind of information. I said, look, just make the call tonight, do the right thing, warn them about what's coming, and let the chips fall where they may. And the next day she was like, thank you so much. It went through. And just like, I love texts like that. Like, so go implement. Tell me you got a deal in the next 30 days after doing some of this stuff. And that will be amazing for us. So have a great rest of your day, guys. God bless you. And we'll see you next time.